Tisha.
I'm Lauren.
And today we have a special guest, Jacqueline Russell, author of the book that we just covered last week, The Things She Didn't Tell Me. I'll let you kind of take it away, Jacqueline.
Hey, I'm Jacqueline. As you said, I just launched my debut novel, The Things She Didn't Tell Me. It came out last November, so we're a couple months into things. Yeah, it's really exciting.
Yeah, we loved it.
I was like, they have to tell me all their thoughts.
We will.
That's the thing about it's been long enough now with it coming out in November that now is when I'm starting to get all of the reviews and all of the feedback. And from, people that don't know me and aren't going to say they like it just because we're friends. And so that is both thrilling and terrifying. So
I can imagine.
It's like putting a piece of your heart out in the world to be judged. Not for the faint of heart.
We actually talked about this last week, though. Your reviews on Goodreads are really good.
Yeah. I've been amazed. A lot of those were ARC readers. So, they had some time with it. But I've had some really amazing feedback and some really powerful and moving responses to the ways that people have identified with it. So that's really cool.
Yeah, I bet so. Yeah, we talked about that last week as well, like the stories that are just so fascinating. And we were like, maybe we'll get to this in questions. We were like, oh man, you should really start this podcast. Like, this should be a real thing.
Yeah.
That's the question I keep getting is this going to be a real thing? Are you starting this podcast? And I know nothing about starting a podcast, but part of me is like, it would be pretty cool.
Yeah.
We have your first 2 listeners right here if you ever do it.
For sure.
Thank you.
I told Lauren, if it's not something you want to do, I call first dibs because the whole premise of it is fun and just an amazing way to connect to people. So I would definitely love to do something like that. And
yeah, I'm even trying to figure out if I can do something that's like kind of snippets on TikTok, doing like a whole podcast about it, maybe at least to just kind of build some momentum. But I do think it'd be really cool to start.
Yeah, so cool.
Yeah.
So do you do anything else outside of being an author? You still work full time, or what's your life look like?
I do work full time. I work full time in healthcare marketing. Very exciting field. I switched from event planning and marketing to healthcare marketing January 2020. So terrible time to move into healthcare. Managing social media through a pandemic. No, thank you. Never again. Yeah, but I tell a lot of patient stories and talk to a lot of doctors about complex procedures and then try to distill that into things that are easier to understand for just average Joe who might, have this heart problem and not know that there's a treatment for it. So kind of finding ways to connect people to the things they need.
Amazing.
Very neat. Yeah.
Where did the idea for this come from?
So when I was, 10 or 12 probably, I was at my grandparents' house and looking through some old pictures. They had just this big giant box of photos, and going through them, I came across one that it's a black and white photo. I don't recognize the woman in it. She looks like she's maybe 18. She's sitting on top of a 1950s car. She's got her little skirt on and her little saddle shoes, and she's looking off to the side like, yeah, I'm the coolest. And she's just gorgeous, and she looks like she's so full of life. And I'm like, who is this? Because I don't recognize her. And my grandparents are like, oh, that's so-and-so. She died really young. You wouldn't know her. And I'm just kind of like, okay. And then there's this moment where they lean in and it's like, they think her husband had something to do with it. And there's so much in that lean in, that moment between this is what happened and this is what we think happened. And no one ever, it was a long time ago. No one ever really found out for sure what happened. Everybody had their suspicions, but I never I never knew any more about her. And so I always wanted to give her an ending. So I kind of wrote her story just to kind of close that loop in my own brain.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah,
I always
that's great.
that, like, and I have no idea why, like, she's a distant cousin. It's not somebody that, it's not a great aunt. It's not a grandmother. It's not somebody I'd be really close to. But I've always joked that if I ever used a Ouija board, she's the one that would reach out to me. She's the one that would answer, because I've just always felt so tied to her. But yeah, so it's her story without being her story.
That's so cool. Love that. Okay. Were Bee and Tom always the characters, or did they evolve from something different?
Bee and Tom kind of always were who they are. When I started writing, the main story was the story of Bee and Tom. Ruby was more of a background character when I first started, and then the friendship between Ruby and Margot grew so much that kind of became the story. So when I first started, I thought, oh, it's going to be this book about this woman who finds out that her grandmother isn't who she thought, and she finds out about this baby, and there's this whole other thing. And then as I started writing, I'm like, okay, so this feels like it's the big reveal, but that's not the twist. There's a whole other thing coming. Yeah, so the story itself kind of changed. The characters have kind of always been who they've been, but yeah, what happened definitely evolved.
Are there any writers that influenced you in writing the story?
Just, I think in my writing in general, I'm a huge fan of Silas House. I don't know if you guys have read. Okay, so Silas House is a Kentucky author. He's originally from Eastern Kentucky, so very like Appalachia, but he has this beautiful way with words and some amazing books. Highly recommend his book Southernmost, and then Lark Ascending. Those are two of my very favorites, but they are both incredible books, and they speak a lot about current events, and like they're very topical, but they also they feel like they're from where I'm from, if that makes sense. And I know as a writer, part of the holdup for me on writing a book is because I thought, you kind of write what you know. And what I know isn't glamorous. It's not, the books that are they're set in New York, or they're on a beach, and they've got like built-in intrigue because of where they're located and, who the people are. And sure, you can dream that stuff up, but I feel like it's a lot easier to write stuff that you're familiar with, and it seems a lot more authentic. And I think I kind of thought that my perspective wasn't important or wasn't that interesting to anyone else. And then I actually went and heard Silas House speak, and just hearing him talk about his experiences made me realize that I love his stuff so much because I relate to it so much, and I see myself in those characters and in those phrases and those, very colloquial turns of phrase. And I think that's so important to not discount your own reality, where you're living in your story.
Definitely just added both of those to my TBR.
Good. You'll love them.
Yeah.
And yeah, I'm not typically one to gravitate toward male authors.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Silas is great.
I love that. As you worked through drafting this novel, were there parts of the story that shifted in a way you weren't really expecting? I know you mentioned, Margot and Ruby, but any other pieces that you were like, oh, that's not what I originally planned, but this is great, or any moments like that?
Yeah. So Margot and Ruby, and what happens to Margot, that was always going to happen. How Ruby deals with it totally caught me by surprise. It was not something that I was planning. It was, so this is one of my weird writing tips for anybody who needs weird writing tips. Okay, all my best ideas come to me in the shower. So I would set my phone on voice recorder and put it outside the shower, and I would just yell things out of the shower. And so one night I'm in the shower and I'm like, oh my gosh, the house burns down. And then I'm like, what if Ruby sets the fire? She knows he's inside. What if, and I'm like yelling things out like over the shower curtain. And God bless him, my husband does not think I'm crazy. I don't know how but yeah, so I did not, the whole demise of Frank was out of left field, but it felt very, I honestly was thinking about what I would do if my best friend's husband had done that to her, and how I would feel putting myself in that place. And I'm like, I would burn his house down. And then I'm like, oh, wait, maybe she does. She burns his house down. It's a whole, I feel like it's a whole reckoning. So it's good stuff.
We loved that. Was Goodbye Earl your favorite song, or
So many people have started reading it and then called me and been like, I feel like this is a Marianne and Wanda kind of situation. And I'm listen, it is what it is, do for your best friend.
Classic. I love it.
Yeah. What, if anything, do you hope readers take away from the story?
There's no unique human experience. I feel like we all keep things to ourselves because we feel like we're the only people that feel that way. People couldn't possibly relate to this thing that I feel, or this secret that I'm keeping, or this thing that I do that I don't want people to know about, or whatever. But as soon as you say, hey, I feel this way, sure enough, somebody else off here in left field is going to go, oh my God, I thought it was just me. You too? Mm-hmm. And I think that there's so much strength in sharing those things that we don't necessarily feel comfortable talking about all the time, or that we attach shame to or secrecy to. And it really can lighten that load that we're carrying when you do open up and talk about that and realize that you're not the only person that's gone through that. I just feel like that's something, especially for women and girls, I feel like we put a lot of pressure on ourselves to appear like everything is hunky-dory and it's perfect and we don't need help with anything, and we've got it all under control, and meanwhile we're up to our ears in anxiety meds, which happens. But I also really think that when you can form a community, and much like B has with her girls from the Thursday Cult, and share those things, it makes everything so much easier.
Love that.
Yeah. Can definitely relate.
Yeah.
Right? And that's what literally everyone has said. I know when I had a couple of beta readers that reached out to me after finishing, and they're like, I don't relate to the women in the story with the secrets that they share, but this made me think about the things that I keep secret and make me feel like I have a reason to use my voice and speak up, about the things that I am carrying. And I just think that's amazing to hear.
Yeah. That's probably the greatest compliment.
Absolutely. 1,000%. I had a woman reach out to me and tell me that, and she wasn't even through with the book yet. And she messaged me and she said that she related to the story because her sister had actually graduated college. I don't know what the time period is for this, but years ago, and had went to another state saying that she was going for a job, and she was actually going to have a baby at a home for unwed mothers. And they didn't find out about the daughter that this woman had until like 20 some odd years later. And now like they've all met, the whole family knows each other. But the woman who told me this, she said her sister had just passed toward the end of last year. And she said, I really wish she could have read this. And that just like broke my heart that she identified with it so much, and that the struggle in the book, is so similar to what someone she loved had gone through, that she wished that she could have read it. And I don't know, it got me.
Oh yeah, I'm sure. So how did you come up with the title? Were there several working titles, or did you always know this is it?
The working title was The Ruby Project.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. But the things she didn't tell me just came from the idea that, Ruby taught B so many things, and so much about who she is as a person is informed by all of the things that Ruby did teach her and all of like the life lessons she gave her. And it feels like this is the one thing that she just did not tell her. This is what she left out, So yeah, it just kind of became an organic kind of, this is the thing she didn't tell me.
It fits.
Yeah, perfectly.
Perfect.
Something that like if you saw it on a bookshelf, you'd be like, who didn't tell what,
Mhm.
who didn't tell what?
You're like, what's the tea?
Yeah.
Mhm.
We're all nosy. We got to know.
We are. Yeah.
This is one about you personally. What is the book you've read the most times?
I feel like the books I reread are more like the classics. I feel like contemporary things, I read it and it's like, okay, I read it and like check it off my little list on Goodreads, and, I'm good. I tend to revisit things that like they made you read in high school, like Little Women, Jane Eyre, those kind of things, just because I think you get such a different perspective on them as you grow up. So it's things that I kind of liked that when I read it the first time, but like, let's reread this. I feel like I don't reread a whole lot though. Yeah. I don't know. I'm always looking for something new.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel that.
Yeah, I understand. I don't reread a lot either.
It's like, how do I reread things when there's so many other things I haven't read yet,
I do that, and then the series, the next one's coming out, and I'm like, okay, I gotta refresh. So that's when the rereads come. Or the movie's about to come out, which I don't know why we do this to ourselves, but we do, and then we compare it, and it's a problem.
Compare it and judge more harshly. Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Are there any personal sacrifices that you feel you had to make to pursue your writing, or were you able to still kind of maintain your life as normal, or what did that look like for you?
Yeah, so I don't know that I would call it sacrifices so much as I've not seen anything that's come out new on TV or movies for a while. Because when I was finished with, work for the day, it was okay, writing mode. And so I went into, constantly just working on the story. And that process took actual writing probably about a year, which is, by some standards fast, but felt like it took forever. The story itself has been living in my head and growing for years and years. And I made notes for months before I actually really got into the nitty-gritty of things. But yeah, I think I didn't stop making plans with friends or, spending time with people or anything like that. I didn't make any kind of major sacrifices, but I will say I sacrificed my keeping up with the current world there for a little bit, just because it was easier to just kind of stay in this cocoon of, okay, well, sorry, I'm headed to the 1950s for the evening and I've got to do this thing. So
yeah, sounds great, honestly.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes it's nice.
Yeah. My husband actually is a sports writer, and so he works in the evenings. And so he would go out to, cover a ball game, and he'd come back and he would write while he was here. And so there were nights where we would both sit on one side, like on opposite sides of their dining room table, and he is working on his story about basketball or whatever, and I'm over here like, and she had a baby, and then there's this, and craziness. And that was probably honestly one of the hardest things, because with him being right there, I definitely wanted to share all of this with him and be like, what do you think about this? And then what if this happens? But I managed to somehow not tell him anything about the story, like at all, until it was complete, first draft, because I wanted to make sure that the plot twists and the surprises landed the way I wanted them to, and that with it being a dual timeline, that it made sense, because that was probably the most difficult part of writing it, was just keeping the dual timeline straight and remembering like what the reader knows, what we know in the past, and what we know in the current in B's timeline.
That's an interesting thing I've never thought about.
Yeah.
Is you have to, especially if you're going back through, like editing, I couldn't imagine being like, okay, where are we at? What do they know? Like, everything, obviously. I've never thought about that before. That's really interesting.
Yeah. So when I wrote it like, this is what happened in the past, and then this is what happened in B's current timeline, and then interspersed them together, and then had to rearrange things. And then when I was doing my first round of edits, I would print the whole thing out and then rearrange my chapters and be like, okay, well, this needs to go here and this needs to go here. And there was one point where I have office bedroom, like blank wall behind my desktop computer. And so it was just Post-it notes. I looked like a serial killer. I mean, it was crazy. The whole thing just being mapped out. And it's like, okay, well, this is here and this person knows this, but then over here, there's this. It's a lot to keep straight. I am working on another book. I will not be writing another dual timeline.
Okay. You're one and done on
Learned
that
your
one.
lesson.
No thanks.
Yeah, we were probably going to be asking you about that, so thanks for letting us know. If you ever need arcs, you know.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so that actually leads perfectly. Are there any themes or genres you wish to explore in future writing?
Yeah, I really just love exploring relationships between women, whether that's family relationships or just the way that we lift one another up through female friendships and just the importance of those. And so the next thing that I'm working on right now, I have lots and lots of notes. It hasn't transformed into anything worth reading yet, but it is another grandmother granddaughter story, funny enough, just because I think that's such an interesting dynamic to explore. People are so multidimensional, and I feel like you know someone as who they are to you, but they're also a whole other person before you knew them. And I think it's interesting to uncover who that person is.
That is, I like that. Okay. Do you think books should entertain, educate, or both?
I think whether it's written with the intention to entertain or educate, you learn something about yourself as the reader, regardless. Yeah, I don't know that that's quite a whole answer on that.
No, it is.
Because that can be founded upon. But yeah, I think that regardless, you're learning something about yourself, whether it's fluff, if you're reading a beach read and it's just something that we like to say is mindless, or if you're reading a nonfiction about anything. Yeah, you're always learning something about yourself as you go through those.
We agree wholeheartedly.
Yeah.
I don't think I said it very well, but
I think you said it great. It was like a mic drop moment.
Oh.
Yeah. What role, if any, do you feel libraries play in keeping literature and the joy of reading alive?
Oh, 1000%. I think that they are incredibly important for offering things like Libby and Hoopla and like apps like that. So if you're not going to be actually going into your brick and mortar library, you're still getting the benefit of books. And I know my personal book club, everything we read, I'm on the waiting list on Libby, I'm on the waiting list on Hoopla. Because if you do want to be, an avid reader, it can turn into an expensive hobby. So I definitely think it makes it more accessible for those of us who don't have an endless budget. But then also just being a place that has programming for the community and kind of being a place that exposes people to maybe new things, I think that's invaluable, especially in like the current climate of our culture as a country. I think the more unique things you can be exposed to, the less scary they are and the less we get all weird about them.
That's a good way to say that.
Also, I didn't realize how many programs, I don't have children, how many cool programs libraries do for kids.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, I used to, when I, had a toddler, that like story time and playtime was like the best part of our day because it would help him get energy out, it'd help him learn something, and then we'd go home and take a nap after we get a little snack.
And not only for kids, but also for adults. There's some amazing programming. I know I've seen things at ours where they're doing, things where they're teaching about gardening and, how to grow your own food, or things about, I can't think of what it's called, but it's like a person library. There's a term for this and I'll think of it later. In the middle of the night, I'll wake up and say, oh, it's called a whatever. But you check out someone who is a different race from you or a different sexual orientation or a different religion and spend just 30 minutes asking them questions. A human library, that's what it's called.
Human library.
Yeah.
So fun.
But I'm like, just how amazing and how important is something like that to be able to, in just a judgment-free zone, ask someone who is different from you what it's like to be that religion and why they think that way and why they believe that religion. Or I just think the more that you can get to know people who are different than you and realize how much we have in common, it just makes the world a better place.
Yes, very much so.
Very interesting. I have not heard of that before.
Yeah, I love that. We're very privileged living in Bentonville area because it's the home of Walmart. So we have millions of dollars flooded into the economy for things and programs like that. But they let you rent games and video games and cooking, like sets. They give you the utensils and cookbook and all of the things, and it's a whole thing. And it is so fun just to go in there and look at all of the options. I'm like, I wouldn't check it out, but it's cool for somebody else.
Well, and I mean, libraries are about so much. I mean, obviously, we're talking about books, and books are everything, but there's so much more to an education and to learning and being a well-rounded person than just reading a book. It's the things like that, like going and learning how to do, how to cook something, and being able to have access to those tools you might not have otherwise. So you're learning skills.
Well, that just reminded me they offer tools, like power tools too, which just blew my mind.
Yeah, the Fayetteville Library, which is right by the University of Arkansas. If you're a Kentucky fan, I think we're basketball rivals. I'm not sure. You're not? Okay. Okay. We're safe then. Okay. So they had what is it? Those rooms where you can 3D print stuff.
Yeah.
It's
and you
insane.
can learn how to drive what are those called? Like an excavator or
wow.
Like a dump truck. Like you can get your CDL driving this thing. I'm like, well, it's kind of scary, but good for learning a skill.
Yeah, it was cool. What advice would you give someone thinking of starting writing their first book?
Just start. That's the hardest thing. It's easy to think that you have to have a whole thing planned out, and you have to have some kind of special software that you're doing your writing in, and you have to have, a routine, and you have to have all of these, credentials, or you have to have life experience and all of this stuff that you have to, have to feel like you're actually a writer. But the biggest thing is just starting. And I think so much of when I'm starting a first draft of anything, whether that's, a manuscript or if it's something like I'm doing for my marketing work, I start with just the basics. John has cancer, whatever, he lives here. This is the treatment. This is why he can't get it. This is why he needs to get it. All of those kind of just very basic things. And of course I go to healthcare because that's how my brain works. Starting with just the most simple sentences just to get that story out, and start writing it, and then just go back and fill in. That's all it's basically starting from bullet points and then going into turning that into paragraphs and chapters and whole books and series. And I think there's something really magical in doing it that way, and really kind of you're nurturing each one of those thoughts into something that is worth reading.
Love that.
How do you feel about adapting books into movies or TV series?
As a person who would like to be paid and sell a book to be turned into a movie, sure. But they're never done very well because we all have our own expectations of what the characters look like and sound like and who they are. And, it's not a real person. It's the person in your head. And I don't know, everything is subjective, obviously, but things are always left out. And when you get a book that you adore and they change, the ending in the movie, what do you mean you change the ending to the story? What's the story? So I don't know. I can get worked up about that, but I mean, they have their place.
Yeah. We can also get extremely worked up. I don't know if you saw our TikTok reactions to the people we meet on vacation.
It's this movie is not the book,
In 5 minutes, we were all watching it together, and we just got really upset. 5 minutes.
Yes, I love the TikTok reaction. You just flop on the ottoman, or on the sofa. Can't do it.
That took us way too long. I'm not gonna lie.
Well, I was cracking up at that. But I think the thing with movies is that the casting is never as good as it is in your own head because, you've decided who these people are. And I will use that thought to plug that my book is on Audible now. It just got put on Audible, and I had to audition narrators for for the story. And so I would get these, I gave everybody the same, like, I don't know, 5 pages. And it was a section where there were multiple characters with different dialogue. And I would listen to these and I'm like, that is not what Ruby sounds like. That is not, that's not Margot. Like, she doesn't sound like that. And I had to just get over myself and be like, okay, it's fine, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And I do like the version that we ended up with, but it definitely took a little bit of just kind of getting used to somebody else voicing the character who had so far only had a voice in my head.
Yeah.
I can't imagine
That's interesting.
what an author feels like when they see their book turned into a movie, because somebody else is creating that whole world, you know, all the visuals and everything of, yeah, I don't know. This is just interesting.
Yeah. It's like you're trusting someone else with your baby.
Yeah, yeah.
If you were to have your book adapted, is there a scene that you would be like, absolutely no changes?
Gosh. So my very favorite character in the book is actually a very minor character, and that is Annie, who is her roommate that she meets at the home for unmarried women. And I feel like the interaction between her and Annie and their conversations just there in the dark, you know, between the two of them when they're both in their beds and kind of trying to figure out where they belong in the scheme of things and how they ended up in this situation. I think that that conversation is something I would want preserved.
It's a good one.
Yeah, so good. I loved that character as well. We have a thing where we love like side characters like that, and we loved her.
Yeah. She's so full of spunk and like, nobody's going to tell me anything and this is who I am. And then you see that it's all a facade, you know? I don't know. I just loved her.
It's relatable.
Yeah.
Sure.
I think for a lot of people, yeah.
Mm-hmm. What is that, okay, I guess this ties into that question. Would you say that is your favorite moment from this story, or is there another one that stands out to you as your favorite?
Just as like a simple moment in the story, I love just the friendship between B and her Thursday Cult girls. The Thursday Cult chapter was probably my favorite to write. I love all of those women and how they make their horrendous crafts and how they treasure them because it's proof that they were there and that they were together. And just the way that they were there for one another. I really love the part where it talks about how this friend dad had health issues and they were going through this, and then this person was going through this, and just kind of how they all showed up for one another. I feel like that is very real, and you're lucky if you have that. I do have that, thankfully. My book club girls, the Fabulous Ladies Reading Club,
love it,
is, you know, a group of 11-ish women who have, you know, been close for over 10 years now. And it's just amazing to, you know, have that kind of friendship where, you know, if something goes wrong, someone's there. And I think a lot of people are envious of that when they read something like that in the book. I know that's some of the feedback that I've gotten is like, I wish I had that Thursday Cult support group.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, can definitely relate to that. I think Laura and I kind of had the moment like that a couple years ago. I was like, I am so tired of just feeling lonely, and it's my own fault for like pushing people away. She had kind of done the same thing in the chaos of running a business. She's like, I just feel like I don't have anybody who understands. So that was a big moment for our friendship for sure, and kind of coming together and realizing, hey, we're both really sad about not having friends that get it.
Mm-hmm. Well, and I think that even just as you get older, it gets harder to make friends because you're not, you know, you're not going to class, you're not in school, you don't have those people that you're necessarily, you know, immediately around. And you may not have that with like coworkers, because a lot of people, you get such a variety of people when you're thinking coworkers. So I think it is really important to try to find ways to forge those friendships and make those connections. It's funny because while I was writing this book, I thought of a million things that I want to do as kind of a jumping off point from this, book and story. And one of the things is that I would love to do like a maybe monthly, I don't know, but some sort of like regular gathering where we're bringing together women for whether it's some random craft or I don't know, to, just some kind of theme around. I feel like people like to make things. I feel like that it kind of levels the playing field when you realize that everyone is equally bad at painting,
Yes.
whatever. But, just kind of some things like that. And I really love to kind of create some workshops and things for women where we can connect and kind of get to know other people who are in the same situation and might also be looking for some more connection in their life.
Love that.
And I also, one of the big things for me while writing this book is, everything that Bea learns, she learns through letters and photos and things that are very tactile, things that she can actually touch. And I feel like we don't do a lot of that anymore. Everything is on our phones. And then when that space fills up with those photos, we don't print them out and put them in an album. Half the time we just delete them. And I don't have kids and I don't want kids, but I struggle with the fact of like, who's going to know me when I'm gone besides like what's on my Facebook profile, which is not real life or, just what you put on social media. And so I would love to, as part of that, creating a space for women to gather and share stories and talk about things like what, we talked about with the podcast. But also to focus on how to create like tactile memories that can be shared in the future and with people who, your family that you love and, create things for them to cherish.
Such a cute idea.
Yeah.
People don't do stuff like that anymore.
That's something we're definitely missing.
I mean, just whether that's like learning how to junk journal or, I would love to talk to people about how to tell their own stories. I feel like that's another part of things is people think that, well, my grandkids don't want to hear what I have to say about when I grew up, whatever. And they might not care now, but when you're gone, they will care. And helping people figure out how to capture that, how to make it easy to write those stories down or record those stories or just make it where it's shareable.
Love all of that.
Yeah, such a good idea. Bring back grandma hobbies too.
Yes.
Any advice you would give your younger self or young people in general?
Do what feels right to you because you're never going to please everybody. And doing what feels true to yourself is going to pay off a lot more in the long run than trying to do what other people say you should do.
Right.
Love it. Some people you just can't make happy, and it took me way too many years to figure that out.
Yeah.
Do you get...
Sorry.
You're fine.
I was going to say, I feel like half of the things I've done in life, I've done out of spite. I think there's a lot to be said for doing things out of spite. So if someone tells you that you can't do something or you shouldn't do something, but you feel convicted that you should do it, then by all means, use that and put that energy toward the thing you want to do.
Yeah.
Cheers.
Absolutely.
Love it. Cheers. Are you drinking a coffee?
It's decaf.
Okay, I was going to be super impressed.
Yeah. It wouldn't faze me if it wasn't decaf, but yeah, if it's after like 3 p.m, I switch to decaf.
Yeah, after lunchtime, I can't, or I'm going to be up all night kicking my poor husband.
Do you get imposter syndrome? And if so, how do you deal with it?
I do and I don't. I do get it. I don't deal with it.
Okay.
No, I think honestly that has been a huge struggle for me because much like I was saying earlier about, why does anybody care about a story from where I'm from or why do people care about, this particular thing? And then putting something out there, to be judged is rough. So I think that for me, it's a lot of just kind of realizing that no one's ever going to give you permission. No one's going to say, okay, you're good enough now. You can feel like you're accomplished and you can go on social media and be like, hey, I'm a writer and this is what I do. And this is why I'm an expert in this and yada, yada. But there's not anybody policing who gets to be an expert content creator or an expert storyteller or any of those things. So like, who are you waiting on to tell you you have permission? Like, there's no regulatory, there's no one with an authority to tell you, okay, yeah, you're good. And I think we're all kind of waiting for permission. And at some point, you got to just give yourself permission and be like, this might be kind of cringy, but I'm going to do it. And maybe it won't be cringy.
Mm-hmm.
I love that.
Yeah,
Another mic drop.
I loved that when
dealing with it by doing things like this.
when she was trying to figure out how to create the podcast and like what mic to use and what software and what platform and what to even start with, like,
yeah,
where do you begin? And she's like, but I'm not a mediocre man. I was like, yes, exactly.
Yeah, because I feel like any average guy would have had a logo on a t-shirt before he even knew what the podcast was about. And I think there's some power in saying, you know what, I'm not a mediocre man and I'm going to make this work.
Yep. And that's exactly what we did with this podcast.
Mm-hmm.
We started it the day after a tornado. We had no power and we're like, we're doing it. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
I hate to quote Bill O'Reilly, what's the F it, we'll do it live,
Yeah. Love it.
I've had a couple of different like book clubs ask me if I would like come to their book club as they've like read the book that month or whatever. And I did one of those last month, and then I've got one the end of this month and then one in March. And it's been so fun to hear what other people have had to say and to be able to just talk about this. And I feel like for so long as I was writing it, I was trying not to talk about it because, one, I'm not good at finishing things. And so I hated to be like, oh, I'm writing this book and it's going to be great. And then, a month later, be like, I just didn't do that. I didn't finish it because I am a hobby collector. My hobby is to be collecting hobbies. And yeah, so for a long time, I didn't really want to talk about it until it was done, or close to done. And I didn't share any of the details of the story because, like I said, I wanted to make sure that when people actually read the story that they got, the twists and the surprises. And it's been a joy to be able to talk about Ruby Margot. And they are not real people, but I love them so much. So I really hope that that's kind of the way that other people feel when they read the book.
Yeah. And you have a beautiful way with words. The way Margot signed off on all her letters and just the phrases of like emotion, like when she thought she fell in love with the father and when she
stupid Will
was devastated about Margot, like just a way of explaining them without actually saying a word that is emotion, like angry or sad or whatever, but you could feel it on the page. And I love that.
I would rather show you than tell you,
Love it.
Thank you all so much for having me.
Absolutely.
It's been fun.
Yeah, keep us posted on your next book. We're all in.
Well, I've told myself, like, okay, this came out in November last year. Can we do it for November this coming year? And we'll see. I've got to
early.
Some writing goals, and it's like me when I think I'm going to make people handmade Christmas gifts, and it's November.
Yeah,
maybe it can happen. We'll try. Yeah. So, but it's there. It's coming. It's kind of inspired by my actual grandmother, so that's kind of fun. She's not your typical grandmother. She's kind of a fireball who has had several marriages and a few affairs and some.
We love it.
She's got some good stories. So so it's kind of an ode to her. She doesn't know that yet. She just turned 90 last week, and she's still feisty as ever. She's still looking for a boyfriend in the retirement home. So.
Love it.
She called me the other day and she said, well, I went out Friday night. And I'm like, you went out? And I'm thinking, like, did you play bingo downstairs?
Yeah.
And she's like, yeah, he's been asking me for forever now. And she's like, we used to go together when we were in our 30s. And she's like, he's 95. But, and I'm like, oh my God. And I'm thinking, what'd you guys do? Like, did you just have dinner together there at the retirement home? Is this somebody that's there too? And she's like, well, we just went out to the local bar.
They let them go to the bar?
What? She said, yeah, we went out to the local bar, and she said he got up and played some music, and she's like, I didn't know he could sing. And I'm like, okay, what is this 95-year-old playing music at a bar? What is this magical place that this exists, you know? And she said, she's like, yeah, when I got there, I didn't know anybody, but by the time I left, I knew everybody. And I'm like, I bet you did.
I'm sure.
Yeah. A few years ago, she had a heart attack, and she's in Michigan, and I'm in Kentucky, of course. So she had a heart attack, and so I'm on the phone with her, and I'm like, what do you need? Is there anything I can do? What would help you get through this? And she's like, bag of cash and a good-looking man. Like, really? That's
Okay.
where your head's at? Okay.
I love it.
Okay. So
Sounds fun.
It's pretty fun. My aunts will tell you that all of us grandkids think that she's hilarious and that it's funny and charming. And she's like, that's not the mother I grew up with. She was like, as a mother, she was terrible. She's like, we were stressed and embarrassed and, all kinds of stuff. But now, with the passing of time, it's just cute.
Mm-hmm. I could see that.
But like I said, people are multifaceted. So
yes, for sure.
Thank you guys.
Thanks so much.
Yeah, thanks for joining us. We look forward to reading your next book and talking again.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd love it. ARC readers right here with great taste.
Yes.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Bye.
That is it for this week. If you haven't already, go check out Jacqueline Russell's book, The Things She Didn't Tell Me. And next week, we are covering Anatomy of an Alibi by Ashley Elston. It is available on Libby and Audible. I think that's it. Go check out our website, subscribe if you haven't already, and we will talk to you guys later.
Bye.